All right. So you saw we had technical issues, and that's why logging is very important to track down bugs. There are many bugs in Zoom, we noticed, and it's all just weird. Um, anyway, I'm talking about OSLog and logging without dependencies. So I'm staying with Philippe, like less dependencies is better. And well, why even bother about logging at all? Um, Well, for me, I find logging much easier than using the debugger. So I love logs. I log everything, so I don't need to use the debugger. I know how to use the debugger, but I don't enjoy it really. And also, I think logs they tell a story. So if you log all the steps, you have a story like how did you get there? What happened? What did the user do? But most important, logs are available on user devices. So when your users experience issues on the production app, they can share the logs with you and share their story with you, and you can track down the bug and kill it. But there are so many options for logging. Like we have print, of course, and there are lots of frameworks, external dependencies, like Cleanroom Logger, Cocoa Lumberjack, Swift Log, Helium Logger. I was using Cleanroom Logger before, but it was discontinued, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. So I pulled in the source code and really compiled it into my projects. And I was looking for a replacement for that for years. And if you are like me, you heard about OSLog because Apple introduced all this unified logging framework, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And you looked into it and you realized it's shitty and you would never want to use that. Um, but that has changed. And I learned about that a few months ago. And I want to share that with you because now OSLog is pretty cool. And maybe have a short survey, like who is using OSLog in their projects already? That's well, that's okay. I accept that, yeah. But still, it's only like a few people, so I can still hold the talk. Otherwise, well, I have a backup topic, but we're already late on time, right? Um, so actually, my requirements for logging are not that sophisticated. All I need is simple setup because I don't want to mess with all that documentation. That's why I don't like the Swiftlog package, because I read the README on GitHub and I already found, wow, I don't want to read that much text, and it looks so complicated. I just want logging. And of course, I want log levels because it's nice to have info and debug and warnings and errors. So print is not enough, obviously. And most of all, I want persistence. What I said, I want my users to be able to export the logs and send them to me with their support requests so I can check what happened. And actually, the OSLog, it checks all the boxes. It's really heavy, this microphone. It has super simple setup because it comes with iOS and macOS and watchOS and everything. It's just included. You don't even have to add a framework. It's just there. So all you need to do is import OS. I never understood how that relates to OSLog. I mean, OS, that could be anything. But it's very short to type. And you initialize a logger by typing logger debug hello, and that's it. So it can't be simpler. So I love that. It has levels. There's debug, info, notice, error, fault when it's really bad. And I think the levels are clear, right? But there is a difference in the persistence. So the debug and info levels, they're not persisted. They're intended to be used from Xcode while you're developing, but they're not persisted on the devices in production. But everything from notice and above is persisted. And Apple says error and fault, they are persisted even longer. I understood the documentation that notice is persisted for about 1 day at least, and the others for 2 or 3 days, but there's no documentation how long really. I guess it depends on the disk size of the user. But there's much more. It has great features, the OSLog. So first, it has very low performance impact because when you do something like this, I want to log like my value, old value, new value. So I have the string and it interpolates the variables to the string. And you would think the logging does just that. It builds up the string and it logs that. But OSLog doesn't work like that. It actually does not evaluate the logs at runtime, but it stores it as raw data in their own Apple format. So it takes no time to interpolate strings. The strings are only generated and formatted and filtering applied when you retrieve the logs. So you can have a lot of logging in your apps without having impact on performance. So this is really great. And this is a big difference to many of the frameworks because under the hood, they often also use the unified logging. But for their APIs, they already interpolate the strings. So you lose that benefit. Also, OSLog and the unified logging system, it has built-in privacy. I think they might be related. If you remember, there was this bug that some version of macOS was logging passwords, user passwords, in clear text and to the console. So this was a big issue. And that's no longer the case because now when you have something like this, you want to log all those variables. All variables that are not numbers, they are censored. So it will be just private, private, private. And that's the default. But of course, you might want to log the name of the item that you're purchasing here. So you have to make that explicit. You have to say, okay, item it has a privacy level of public. And you have to explicitly state that to actually log the data. That is more work, but it really prevents from logging sensitive data. And also, for example, for the credit card, there is also a flag to hash that. That has the effect that here, my sunglasses, they're just logged like this. But the credit card, it logs a hash for the credit card. So when it's the same credit card again, it will have the same log as same hash. And you can see like where it is the same or where it is different without revealing the actual credit card number. Similarly, you can apply all the formatting that was introduced in Swift 5.5, I don't know, like last year or 2 years ago. So you can do things like that, format the number with fixed precision too. That works in all strings in Swift, but it also works here. And then you get something like this. For example, I get my currency formatted nicely. And finally, because this is all like built deep into the system, the OSLog stuff, it's all first-class citizens for the console app. So when you initialize the logger, you can add additional metadata. You can say like this logger is for my subsystem something, and it is for category something. And that will later be displayed in console, and you can filter for that. So I usually put in my app identifier and the class where I'm in, but it's up to you what kind of naming you apply here. So this will display in console. I guess it's hard to read from behind. But here you will get those nice columns. It will be structured data. It won't be just a line of string. It will be real structured data with the process name, subsystem, category, type, time, and message separated and like being displayed in a meaningful way. And then I said, for me, it's most important to retrieve the logs. I want to get the logs from the user devices, right? And for that, there is another class. It's called OSLog store. And this is pretty new. I think Apple introduced all the logging without a way to retrieve the logs. And it's also quite simple to use. You initialize this OSLog store object, and you provide the time frame you want to get the logs for example, for 24 hours. And then you just say get entries. And then you get all the logs from your process. That also includes several Apple log stuff. And afterwards, you can do with those log entries whatever you want. Like I just make them a string again and store that as a plain text file. But you could also, I don't know, upload it to the cloud or do fancy stuff. So I have a live demo. Let's see if that works. No. Screen mirroring. Yeah. Awesome. Is that large enough? No. Readable? One more level. Okay, I got this app from Apple's SwiftUI intro. So this is this landmark app, and it shows national parks with some info and the map and stuff. And I have added logging to their data model class just to show you something. So here it's again what I showed on the slides. I initialize a logger. I set the subsystem to my bundle identifier and the category to the name of the class, whatever you like. And I have some notice logs here and some debug logs. And it all shows up here in the console output in Xcode. But I also added an export button here that does not export the national park, it exports the logs. And because I did this quite hackily, it's slow, but it works. Parks. And now I got a text file with the logs you also saw in Xcode, but this is the user side where the users would be able to send me logs. And for this, I've written a class called log storage. And this does what I also just showed you on the slide. It creates this log store to get all logs from my current process for the last 24 hours. And you can apply predicates here to filter those. And as you see, I apply true predicate because it doesn't work. I have it commented out here. So I tried filtering for the subsystem and it's just broken. It doesn't do anything. So I don't know, maybe it's fixed in the new macOS or iOS releases, or maybe someone of you knows how to make that work. Anyway, so I get all entries, what else? And then I just format them as a string and do some string formatting here, put them all in lines, join the lines, store them as a text file, and that's it. But as I said, you can go fancy with the data. You have this all structured here as a log entry object, and you can get all the metadata individually and then build whatever you like from that. So I have also made one more feature to this nice app to make it more fun. So now I think in current financial situation, it makes total sense to buy an NFT for national parks. And I have added logging to that, of course. So this is my purchase sheet. And when I submit my data, it will log the name and the credit card and the price and everything, of course. But I mean, NFTs are serious business. So of course, the credit card number is hashed out. So I apply this private hash mark to not really log the credit card number. But the name is public. and the price is formatted, and the verification number is aligned in 3 columns. And you can do all this fancy stuff here. So let's give that a try. I just have one hand, you know. I'll keep it short. Right, and you see here it is logged. My name, my credit card number, price, verification. And now if you haven't had too many beers during this very long break, you will say like, but you said the credit card number is hashed and it's private, and why is it still displayed here? And it is. And that is because all this privacy stuff will only apply when you run in production. When you run from Xcode, it's not applied. So you have to be very careful, because as long as you're developing, everything is logged nicely. And if you forget to add public modifiers, well, you will only realize when users send you debug logs that data is not really useful. I can also prove that because I have prepared something. So I have actually exported the app for production. So I can show you. And this allows me also to show you how it looks in console, because here I start logging and then I get all the system logs, but I have also prepared a filter for my app. So now it's quiet again. And now, sorry, just one hand. I buy this and I get the logs directly to console here. And here it is. And here you see it is hashed out because this is the production build and here it works. And as you see, you get all the nice console features here. It's all presented in columns and very pretty. And you can filter for that. And I filter for the subsystem, for example, but you can go wild here. Unfortunately, of course, you can only get the logs into console when you run on the device, because there is no way to export the native console data format, whatever that is, from using this OSLog store API. So when you export yourself on the device, all you get is whatever you come up yourself. I hope that changes, because I would love to see the logs user sent me in the console in a nice formatted way. Yeah, but that's my live coding, and it all worked. And still working. You have to be thankful for the small things, you know. Right, so to recap, there are some caveats to OSLog. It's all great and I'm using it and I love it, but there are some downsides that some people might say it makes it shitty. But well, it's a free country. You know? First, it requires iOS 15 and macOS 11. I think in my notes for the meeting, I wrote macOS 12, but I later found out it's actually macOS 11. So if you need to target older devices, you're out. And then the OSLog store, as I said, it does not export native log archive data, which is just a pity. Filtering using predicates is completely broken. It's documented, but it doesn't work. And privacy is on default, which is great, but you have to pay extra attention and yeah, make sure that you're really logging what you want to log. I have some references. So there is a talk from WWDC 2020, which I got most of what I told you from. So you could have watched that as well, but there's no beer and no pizza. And also Apple has quite good documentation on all of this on their website. So when you Google this, you will end up here on OS logging. And it's quite well made. There are examples and everything, and you can look up all the various formatting options that there are, and there are so many. Also, sponsorship. I got this idea actually from our own newsletter, which Julius here sends out regularly. And as I said, I was looking for a replacement for my logging system. And in Julius' newsletter, I read a small article that OSLog is no longer shitty and unusable. And so I gave that a try, and I thought I have to spread the news. And also, more advertisement. We're iOS and Mac developers, but we also made a Slack app recently, and it's featured on beta page today. Well, what's it called? Beta list. I never went there before, but I heard it's awesome. And it's a chat roulette for Slack. So if you have a large team and you want to know your colleagues better, give it a try. If you use Donut already, we're cheaper and it's easier to use. So that's it. Thank you very much. And I hope you have lots of questions.
Okay, so we had to retire the cube. So I'll have to pass around this microphone, but then you'll find out how heavy this thing really is. So please ask questions. Here you go.
Thank you very much. First of all, even if I had enough of beer, yeah, I realized that the price format was quite different. So it was 06900. Why is it like that? And second question is, how do you deal with legal team or privacy team? Because you put a lot of responsibility for the engineers to define which field you need to include into the log and which basically you are not allowed to.
Well, for the formatting, I think I just don't know all the don't understand all the formatting options correctly yet. So I think it's just my fault and it's just wrong formatted. And yeah, there's huge documentation by Apple. And I think there's even a special talk about formatting string. It's awful. There's so many options. And well, we don't have a legal team. Well, I still think it's an improvement because before, when you use another framework, everything is locked. So at least now you have a safeguard that you don't accidentally lock everything and passwords, and at least you have to make it explicit. I think that's the idea by Apple, that when you lock data, at least you have to think, well, 1-2 seconds when you type in public. So yeah, there should be some resonating with the engineer to, when I write public, yeah, it's public. Yeah.
Next question. Okay, I'll go over here.
Hey, thanks for the talk as well. So when you say that other frameworks, when they use string interpolation, we actually lose a little bit of the performance thing. So does that mean that we cannot have like a, as Philip said, like a interface logging framework where you would have the live one using the OSLog? Is that the same? So we would not actually be able to extract this to like a logging framework of our own, right? We would have to use inline OSLog dot whatever, like info every time. Is that the case?
That's how I understand, because I mean, I'm not so much into like the deep Swift compilation bitey stuff, but I personally, I don't know, when I write a function, for example, for my own logging framework, and I get the string interpolation, then the system will already interpolate when I get it. So I don't know how you would, when you write a framework, how to get like the raw data without having it interpolate. Maybe there certainly is a way, because Apple programmed it, and maybe you need to do fancy C stuff. I don't know, but at least it's not so simple.
Okay. So in your code right now, when you want to log, you just call it directly, the OSLog, as you showed us.
Yeah, I wrote no wrapper around that because I'm happy with the functionality. And sure, if you have more complex requirements, but then maybe you want to look into things like SwiftLog, which has all those this modular system where you can get various formatters for various things and have attachments to I don't know, logging with Slack and stuff like that. If you need that, maybe it's already built in there. And I mean, the performance impact, I didn't measure it. There is a performance impact, but maybe, I don't know, loading your analytics framework probably it has more impact.
Yeah, thank you.
Go. Saw a hand here.
Thanks for the talk. So you mentioned that you are quite fan of the logs and prefer it more than debugger. So that's why this question, maybe you could suggest what's to do further with the logs. So you mentioned that we could pick these logs to the file. Now we have the file, now a sandbox. And what's next? So here the device with the file inside, how to get it from the device?
Well, in our apps, we store this as plain text, and when the user there is like an export button in the settings to, like, when they report a bug, we tell them, please go to settings. There's a button, click it, and then we zip the log files and other metadata files, and then open a share sheet with the zip, and users can take that, send it by email, and that's all we do. And also, I don't know, we rarely have bugs where we would need all the, like, more specific information, if you mean that. I mean, when you log, you only get like very rough data, you know where it happens, and you have only some rough information. You don't see the memory image or things like that, of course. But actually, I rarely have bugs where that would be needed, like getting crash reports or something like that.
So it was more about how to really get these files. You mentioned this.
I write a text file, I zip it, and use the
like
share
the
sheet,
solution.
and people send it, and that works fine.
So just interesting common approaches how to get it. And another question. So currently Apple works a lot on this crash tracking system, but still Crashlytics still here and probably very useful in some cases. And haven't you thought about integration of these logs with Crashlytics, because they have some fields when you could add more logging for the crashes, for non-critical errors. So any ideas on this topic?
Well, we stopped using Crashlytics when it was discontinued. And I think now it's all Firebase, and we don't use that. It feels like overkill. I like Crashlytics was awesome, and well, some company just bought it. So
Okay, I got it. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, next question. Do you still have one? Cool. Move over to the next.
So it's beautiful. Thank you for that. But what is really you just have this storage with many terabytes, gigabytes of logs, but how you analyze it, how you handle it, and how you maybe for the future time go into artificial intelligence of something analyzing more just parsing string, for example. Do you have some ideas how to improve it, how to go forward and get some profit from this digital I don't know, processing, for example, of information? You just have you have many storages, and somehow store that information. But first question, how do you handle it? How do you, I don't know.
Well, no, I have no idea how to further process that. Actually,
So
when you
have level of your awareness, basic level, some advances, some, I don't know, some files, some crashes or something. But what else beyond of these levels? Maybe get some, I don't know, patterns maybe neural networks or something, and get this analyze to the level up. I don't know. It's just my suggestions, not rules or something. But
sure.
maybe.
Well, I don't have any use case for that. I mean, we're happy with the logs. Usually, that is enough for us to track down bugs and issues, and also for when you use the OSLog, actually you don't have that much data because it will only store the data for 24 hours. So you don't have a huge amount of log data to analyze. And at least our use case is usually that a customer has an issue, the app crashes or something's not working as they like to. We ask them to send us the log, and then we just see what happens. So it is a very limited time frame and limited amount of data. But if you have ideas to process all this, like bring this all together, like log files and crash files and
So,
everything with
for
more
example, you
advanced.
have some feature toggles. You just plan it to switch on your feature toggle. For example, for some feature you have in your app, and then after that you can analyze what is going on your log system, and what I don't know side effects, which side effects I don't know on your system or something when you just switch on your feature toggle, for example.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea, but I really don't have that use case. We don't have feature toggles or A/B testing, so this is beyond the scope of what we actually need. But if you have those use cases and if you have ideas to solve that, then that would be a great succession talk for next month.
Oh yeah, I have some ideas. I have some ideas to, for example, for releasing to the prod exactly, not releasing for the staging or something. And yes, okay. Thank you very much for your. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There wasn't another question here, I think.
Yeah, I saw that. I've got a question myself, actually. I'll do that after,
Great.
if I'm allowed to.
Thanks for the talk. My question would be, you said that you're not using Crashlytics anymore. So how do you analyze then the logs? Imagine customer uses, it crashes, next day they complain about it. It has been 18 hours passed and they have used the apps again.
We don't have an ideal solution for that yet. Some crash reports you get from Apple. I never understood. I feel like not every crash report ends up in Xcode. I never understood the system. On the other hand, actually, since we have like almost 100% Swift code, we rarely have crashes. So when Crashlytics was discontinued, we somehow thought like, yeah, maybe it's not the most urgent thing. And if when we have crashes, usually we have them on our devices as well, and they're easy to track down. So, but yeah, if you have bigger apps, like I know many of you have large work for larger companies and you have large projects where you need that, but I don't have a good solution for that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks for the talk as well. I pretty much had the same question, but maybe more specifically for very, very rare cases where the apps crash instantly. Like you had a share feature in your app. What if the user of the app can't even get to that point because it crashes all the time?
Yeah, that's a problem. I don't know.
It could be like very, very specific things, like a very specific operating system, but
Thanks. I think we had an FAQ on our website that if that happens, they should go into the console and we explain how to do that really quick and dirty, just to get something from them.
That's right. Most of our apps are available for Mac, and there it's much easier for the user as well to get the crash reports and stuff. If your app is only iOS, it's all much harder to instruct the user. That's true. So maybe that's the reason why we don't have that issue so much.
Actually, I had a request from Felipe just quickly. I'll come to you after.
Yeah, great talk. Thank you. I wanted to know if you had the chance to play with to check the testability of the logger and how easy it is to abstract it, test it, mock it, or whatever as a dependency.
I didn't test the logger. I trust it. It's
All right. Cool.
I would think if the unified logging system crashes, then your app will crash anyway. I guess it's so deep in the system that it will probably break things badly.
Yeah, thank you. I mean more like how easy it is to abstract and then to, but I guess most likely you just
I haven't. I use it plain, and actually that's why I like it, because it's so simple. I just can put it in and I don't need to do anything about it. I mean, there are enough dependencies and complex things, so I'm happy that I don't need to think about the logging.
But there are ways for you to check like usages of it. I don't know, you want a specific layer to call the logger with a specific log level when a bad path happens. I don't know, when a networking response goes wrong. Are you able to test that the logger was called the right way? And it was more like in that sense.
No. Sorry.
I was actually gonna say something on complementing what Max had asked. That also like you, like I learned about OSLog when I was investigating an issue like a couple of months ago. It was perfect. Everything you said, like it made me fall in love with it. And then I started to use it in production. And then I learned that the main problem that I can't use it right now is that you only have access to your current process. So if the app crashes, that's not your current process anymore. So you don't have access to any log that was created on a previous instance of the app. So there's no way to debug crashes with it.
Oh, really? That's interesting. As I said, we have rarely crashes, so that hasn't happened yet. But that's a very good and interesting
so when
point.
They fix that, it's going to be the perfect logger.
I see. That's. I guess that was the most important
exactly
comment of the entire presentation. Yeah.
sorry, not that. And what Felipe said, so he it's about like abstracting. Apple specifically asks to not wrap it on anything because of performance. So you have to use it itself, not wrapped on any logger or anything.
Okay, and are you able to still, find a way to see if the behavior is what you expect? So even if it is like a value type or whatever?
I guess, yeah, you could like write a test for it, but you can't like in production, you can't wrap it on anything, because of all those performance benefits that you get on interpolation and everything. Yeah.
Thank you.
Was not exactly it, but.
Cool. I think I had a question over there. Is that still valid? Has it been answered? Over there? One last one, and then. Always ready.
So, second time, thank you for your presentation. I have some pretty I don't know question about how you so you have some system, it's your app, modular it's not dependent on the question, but so OSLog, you have some security level and have some for OSLog side on behalf, you have some vision or availability level for your I don't know, getting logs. For example, you just in your screens, I just saw about logging some security information. For example, hash of credits cards of something or something. So my question is, There is a good case to say for um, in the storage some security information or something uh, depending on credit card or payments or something. From my side, it's not, I don't know, it's not proper. What do you say?
Well, sure. I also, I mean, when you use that in an iOS app, the app is in its sandbox and encrypted anyway. So when you log private data, there is no huge
yeah.
issue, of course.
Okay, if you're using for for staging, yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
Cool. I guess that's it. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining in, coming along. Thank you for all the presenters.